Welcome to another Skepticule segment, the Pearced Off segment for the Skepticule Podcast, and my name is Jonathan M.S. Pearce. Today I'm going to talk about prayer and how it can, or at least answered prayer, can be somewhat explained. Let me tell you first about something called Littlewood's Law. Now, a chap called Littlewood defined a miracle as an exceptional event of special significance occurring at a frequency of 1 in a million. He assumes that during the hours in which a human is awake and alert, a human will see or hear one event per second, which may be either exceptional or unexceptional. Additionally, Littlewood supposes that a human is alert for about 8 hours per day. As a result, a human will in 35 days have experienced under these suppositions about 1 million events. Accepting this definition of a miracle, one can expect to observe one miraculous event for every 35 days' time on average, and therefore, according to this reasoning, seemingly miraculous events are actually commonplace. So the idea behind this is that we experience so many things all the time that we are bound to come across on a actually fairly regular time frame seemingly implausible events. You know, these massive coincidences. These things actually do happen to me quite often. I notice it often in a language sort of way. So I'll be driving down the road and there will be an advert on the radio for Sparshat's car sales garage, Sparshat's garage, and just as the word Sparshat's come up, I turn my head to the left. This happened to me the other week, and I read the word Sparshat's on the side of the garage. I'm like, what are the chances of that? Or I'll be reading a book and there'll be TV on in the background, and they'll say a word like, for example, incredible. And just as they say the word incredible, I read the word incredible in my book. I mean, those kind of coincidences happen all the time. Now, they're pretty innocuous. They're pretty irrelevant, insignificant occurrences, right? So they can easily be forgotten. You don't think anything of them. Now, if, however, we're thinking about prayer, then it looks a bit different. So this is something that happened to me once some years ago. See, I'm the proud father of newly born twin boys at this moment. These two delights, they gave us great joy, and yet they also caused us a great challenge. So when we introduced them to solids, they had a week of screaming the house down at night. This led my partner and myself to have some degree of sleep deprivation as they were waking every 2 hours to be breastfed. We sat down one Sunday afternoon and discussed this for about 4 hours. We had all the books out and were scouring the internet for different routines, opinions and helpful tips. We were fairly stressed, and this was really important for us, especially as the boys were pretty stressed too. After all that talk and worry, we simply couldn't conclude what to do. There were so many options. It was at this point that, had we been praying people, we would almost certainly have joined hands and prayed for strength and insight for an answer. So giving up, I walked myself down to the local shop for some milk, as we had some surprise guests over for a cup of tea. Just walking out of my local shop as I got there, on a random Sunday afternoon, was a woman we knew from Twins Club. I'd never seen her on this road before, or even outside of Twins Club, and there she was. I stood and talked to her for half an hour. She had exactly the same problem with her twins before us, and gave us a routine and some ideas. And hey presto, we were sorted and so much happier. What were the chances? Now, of course, had I prayed, this would have been bona fide proof that prayer works, that God listens to me, that my faith works. Yeah, imagine the joy in God's works that I would have experienced, and imagine the evangelizing I would have done at the church in telling my Christian friends of the miracle. I didn't pray, and I don't hold that faith, so what to a Christian in exactly the same sort of situation and who has a real spiritual moment of transcendent evidence of prayer and faith becomes just another funny coincidence to someone like me. For someone who prays frequently every day, the chances of a successful prayer are very high. You know, we count our hits, don't count the misses. So if you're going to be praying every day whenever you're in a bit of a pickle, or even not, you just pray for something, then if you do it often enough, eventually some of them are going to seemingly come true. And these coincidences happen all the time, but when they happen to a religious person, they take on a whole different religious meaning derived from their religious context. Prayer works for a lot of people who follow a lot of different religions. At least most of these gods don't exist, so something must be up. My God and my prayers work, but yours are just coincidence. Seems like special pleading to me. The chances are, in my opinion, that most, if not all, incidences of prayer working could be put down to coincidence. We do and say an awful lot of things every day, and we wish for an awful lot of things every day. Some of them are bound to actually happen. Besides, I've never seen an amputee grow back their limb after prayer. I've seen evidence of cancer naturally go into remission without prayer. Enough cancer patients get prayed for there to eventually be a correlation. Not, may I add, a causal relationship. And here's another analogy that shows the difficulty between almost contradictory prayers. So yesterday I was pumping up the tyres to my twin's buggy. So this happened a few years ago, actually, so it's not yesterday, but I'm reading it from an old post of mine. I have an old bicycle pump which I bought probably 7 years ago. I bought it for £3, for absolute peanuts. This pump has been very hard working. 2 bicycles and a buggy at regular intervals. The buggy particularly often needing pumping up, and the pump has worked tirelessly. Ha 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 ha, pun intended. For the first time ever, whilst pumping the tyres up to the buggy in the kitchen, I wanted to talk about the pump and laud its efficiency, reliability and value for money to my partner. This pump is brilliant. I've had it for 7 years now and it's never let me down. I only paid £3 for it. It's been such a good bargain. Basically, it is genius. So, you can pretty much see what's going to happen here. Like a Greek tragedy, surprise, surprise, what amazed me was the timing. No sooner had I finished the us of genius than the mechanism of the pump twanged and it broke in my hands. The two of us burst out laughing at the sheer amazing coincidence of it. The first time, after very regular use for 7 years, I had ever mentioned the pump. After singing its praises in my over-exuberant manner, it broke in my hands. Really, what were the chances? It was like there was some supernatural force making that happen. It was like there was some supernatural force making that happen. And of course that made me think too. Let me now change the analogy around, shift the paradigm. Let me now put myself in a position of being a praying Christian. I'm said Christian, I am on my way to work and late for an important meeting for the first time. The level crossing that I cross is very often always down. As I approach, I fear it is down, but suddenly I see it is up. I race through it, thanking God for doing that. Woohoo! Now imagine just before I approach it, I give a little prayer. When it is up and I race through, I think to myself, God listened. I won't be late for that crucial meeting. Thank you, God. And it's a prayer that has that causal efficacy. Now imagine that the same crossroad, which is always down, is open after a little prayer with my crucially ill partner on the way to hospital. That small amount of time could be the difference between life and death. The same prayer has a massive consequence. Now God really is listening, and I will remember that for the rest of my life. But let us return to the original event. The pump breaks after an amazingly coincidental, exuberant display of affection for the pump. Hey-ho, I forget about it after a week, if I hadn't written it down in a blog post. If I was a fervent believer, I would be praying multiple times a day, asking for the things very often. The sheer volume of prayer means that many of them, by laws of statistics, will be successfully acted upon, just as I mentioned earlier. So we have this issue, but when I mention contradictory prayers, now imagine at this crossroads there's another person on the way to somewhere really important in the train, right? And the crossroads go down, they're praying to get there on time. So whose prayer has more power? Because one person's successful prayer is another person's absolute nightmare. The level crossing goes up, cars can go, but the train has to stop, or, the traffic lights go green going one way, but that means they go red the other way. So someone gets to the hospital really quickly going this way, but someone misses their meeting going that way. They've both been prayed for. There are all these issues, and prayer is obviously completely nuts as a concept, because an all-knowing, all-loving God doesn't need reminding what to do in the world. He doesn't sit there and go, oh, thanks, Jim, for that prayer. I'd almost forgotten to save your mother from cancer. Damn me for being, omniscient since the beginning of time. So it's obviously all bonkers, but I just thought I'd talk to you a little bit about probability and a little coincidence and Littlewood's law. Hope you enjoyed that. Have a little chat, see what you think, and as ever, question everything, apart from anything I say. Drop by my blog. Thank you.